Today we're going to try and rebuild some batteries. We'll see how it goes. These are all batteries that I got for nothing. We will go through trying to rebuild one, maybe two of them. The first thing I'll do is show you what not to even try to rebuild. I'll turn off the camera and we'll go over and take a look at some batteries that are not worth trying to save. Okay, these batteries here, you can see the obvious crack in the side of this one. You could, I guess, take epoxy and try and save it, but it's pretty well gone. It'd be very difficult to get the epoxy to set in such a way that the acid didn't eat through where the crack was, and it's not worth the risk. If we go over to this battery here, I think it's kind of obvious that this came out of a UPS, and it obviously had too high a draw on it, which made it so that it warped the whole battery, cell and all. Now the third one is not so obvious. If you take a look at the battery itself, it doesn't look in too bad a shape. And I already looked and I cannot get it to focus in on this cell. But if you were to look in this cell, as well as this one at the end here, you would see that the plates are all black and falling apart. That means it's got two dead cells in it. So the best you could hope to get out of it would be approximately 8 volts. So it's not worth salvaging as well. Okay, so we'll get a battery up here. I'll turn the camera off again and we'll get a battery up here and we'll start working on seeing if we can save it. Okay, so we've got this little battery here. I'm going to be turning the camera on and off as I do each of these steps because it's hard to do one-handed. But the first thing we will do is remove these caps. Then we'll inspect the cells inside, and I'll remove these caps and then see whether we can get in there and look with the camera. Okay, so we've got the caps removed. Now what we want to do is, first thing, so that we don't get any contamination in to these cells, is take a piece of paper towel, a shop towel, cloth, and wipe them so that none of the stuff that was there will get in there while we're got it open. Okay. I don't think you can see down there. I'm going to take and turn the flashlight on my phone and see whether the combination of the two. No. But I'm looking down in these cells and they look okay. I can't even do a carbon pile test on this right now because the cells are dry as a bone. So I am going to take and get my battery acid and take and fill these cells up. So once I got them filled, and we're just going to fill them till they just cover the plates up. Once I have them filled, I will come back on camera. Okay, so I have filled all the cells up. You can see the level in them all. Now, some people may be asking why I used acid, battery acid electrolyte, rather than just doing distilled water like a lot of people suggest. Well, with distilled water, yes, you can bring the battery back, but you will never get all the dissolved acid salts off of the plates inside and get them to reabsorb. So I find that you get better results if you just put in new acid. Now, if a battery is just down a little bit, that's one thing I may use distilled water to bring it back, but when they've been boiled dry to the point that this one was, this little battery used 3 quarts of acid to get it filled up. So it was pretty well empty. Now, if you look over here, you'll see I spilled a little bit, and the best way to neutralize that is with a little bit of baking soda. It will dissolve that and neutralize it so that nobody's going to accidentally get hurt by it. And there you go. I'll wipe that down with a piece of paper towel here in a minute and work it all in so it's all good and neutralized. Okay, so now what I need to do is I need to put the caps back on. Then I will load test it to see if we have any battery there. And then I will put it on the charger. So I will turn the camera off while I do that and come back to you. Okay, there I have put the caps back on. If you notice, there's baking soda all over. That's because I rubbed the battery down in case there was any place that I got some acid spilt. Rubbed it down with baking soda to neutralize it. I will clean that off, and then we will test it with the load test to see whether we have any voltage, and then we will put it on the charger to see if we can bring it back. Okay, I've hooked up the load tester, and looking down at it, there is not even enough voltage to turn it on. So that either means that it's no good, or it's just so low charged that it needs to be given a good charge before it does it. So we will put this now on the battery charger, and we'll come back to it in a little while and see how it's doing. Okay, it's a little hard to hear me, so I will do this and I'll walk away and talk a little bit. Okay, you probably saw there that there were 2 batteries instead of 1. The reason that I had to do that is because there wasn't even enough energy in the 1 battery to excite the alternator. So I have set that up to charge. We'll leave it charged there and come back after it's been charged for a bit. Okay, so we've had this battery now running for about, on the alternator charger, which is producing 130 amps for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. I've now hooked it up to my load tester, and as you can see, it's got 12.8 volts in it. Now we will hit the test. And I won't be surprised if it comes out as weak, because it takes a couple of cycles to get it to turn out okay. Yeah, it's showing it as bad, which is no biggie, because like I said, sometimes you have to charge and discharge the battery up to 3 or 4 times to get it to come back after doing this. But by looking inside, there were no damage to the plates, no visible damage to the plates, and there we have a battery that is been restored. Now we have this other battery here, which, if you take a look, it's a sealed lead acid battery, and I was able to do exactly the same thing to it and bring it back. They all have a plate on the top of them. I'll find something to lift that plate out, and I'll stop the camera and I'll come back once I find something. Okay, I was able to find a little nail and pop that off. As you can see, even SLAs have individual cells that you can check the status on. Now this rubber cover had been damaged and was cracked, so I just repaired it with some silicone, and each one of these little rubber caps is removable, and the only thing is you need to use a syringe when topping up the levels in them. Almost every flooded wet cell battery, whether they call it maintenance free or not, can be opened up and serviced. Well, there, I hope you have enjoyed the very simple tutorial on restoring batteries, and give me your feedback. Thank you. Bye.